Welcome to the Specialist Podcast,
where two former mediocre high school special teamers get together and talk all things sports. Welcome back to the Specialist Podcast. I am Matt Gott. However, Coleman Bazin is not in the studio today, and no, it is not an April Fool's joke. He is sick. He pretty much lost his voice, so if you have a podcast and you lose your voice, you can't really do the podcast. That's pretty obvious there. But I do have a different co-host today. It is a privilege to welcome Kannapolis Intimidators' own and the Queen City's best autographer, Dolphin Dan, Daniel Haloti. Thank you for being on.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. And, already give me a good title here. Best grapher in Charlotte. I like it.
Yes, sir. Not only the best grapher in Charlotte, but you could say the baseball expert when it comes to talking about minor league and major league baseball. But we'll hold the baseball talks off for a little bit later as we'll do a Final Four preview. Profit Advisory Group is a full-service telecom and technology solution partner that can help you with any of your telecom needs. Whether you need to cut costs, buy new service, or change away from your current carrier. The greatest thing is, they get paid by the carriers, so there is never any cost to you. Check out their website after you're done checking out the specialists. Those of you guys who don't live under a rock, like I love saying, the NCAA tournament has been going on this month, and it's been I wouldn't say so crazy, regardless of the fact that 3 of the 1 seeds are not in the Final Four. There's been a lot of upsets in the first round, but no too big upsets, as the Final Four consists of a 5 seed, a 1 seed, a 2 seed, and a 3 seed. The 1 seed that I didn't have in is in Virginia. Dolphin
Right.
Dan, what do you think about that? And did you have Virginia in the Final Four?
Right. Virginia is a strong team. I got the chance to see them play at the ACC tournament here, man. And they're a good team. I can't even deny that. I had them in my Final Four. I didn't have them making the championship game. However, I think that the Final Four, with the way it's now, that's changed. So I've got Virginia in the championship game. I'd say that they're probably going to beat Auburn, but I like Virginia. They're a solid team, and I'm thinking that they're probably the favorites for me in this Final Four.
Interesting. Yeah, I was pretty scared. I'm not a Virginia fan. I was pulling for Gardner-Webb in that first round, but I'm sure all the Virginia fans and myself, not a Virginia fan, like I said, were pretty scared for them after what happened last year against UMBC.
Right.
Gardner-Webb, they were up at halftime 1 year after that upset. I didn't think the upset was going to happen, but Tony Bennett, the great coaching, adjusted the second half and took away all the, nerves, you could say, that Virginia kept from last season. But
right, and that's Virginia. Virginia doesn't play very strong to start the game, but they make you play their way. So they force the tempo, they push what they want to play, and that's absolutely amazing what Virginia has been able to overcome to make it here to the Final Four.
But another team that has not overcome anything but has beaten some really big-name teams in college basketball is Auburn. They'll be playing Auburn at Saturday at 6 p.m., I believe, on CBS in the Final Four. The Tigers, 30-9, escaped the upset against New Mexico State, and they killed Kansas. They killed North Carolina, and they barely beat Kentucky. But Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky are some of the biggest names in college basketball. They beat Kentucky without their starting big man, I believe Chuma Okeke, if that's how you say it, the 6'8" forward, tore his ACL versus UNC, and he's done.
Right. That's definitely a big blow for Auburn, but I think that with March Madness comes momentum, and I think Auburn has the momentum right now coming off of 3 big wins against Kansas and Kentucky and North Carolina. So I think that the momentum is going to help them. I don't know if it's enough to beat Virginia, but I think that Auburn definitely is going to put up a pretty decent fight against the Cavaliers.
So who do you got in that game?
In this game, I've got Virginia beating Auburn, but it's a close one. I don't think it goes. I don't think it's a blowout at half. I think it goes right down to the last couple seconds of the game, and Virginia wins it.
100% agree. I think Jared Harper for Auburn's going to have a great game, but I think Ty Jerome, Kyle Guy, all those key players for Virginia, they're going to lead Virginia into the championship game. Now, the other game in the Final Four, it's Michigan State versus Texas Tech. That's the later game, starting about 9 o'clock on CBS. Texas Tech has a great defensive team, and then it's Michigan State. They knocked off Duke. Finally, someone did it. We were waiting. Duke eked out some earlier games in the tournament, but they lost by 1 point to Michigan State. Tell me about this matchup, Auburn versus Michigan State, and what you think you're going to see there. Michigan State versus Texas Tech.
Michigan State, Texas Tech is going to be an interesting game. I think Michigan State's coming off of potentially one of the biggest wins in college basketball history, I'd say, considering Duke has the top 3 or 4 recruits in the nation. So Duke is an absolutely stacked team. I had them winning it all. But Michigan State coming off of that huge win is crazy, and I think they're going to come off that with momentum. As far as Texas Tech, their defense is outstanding. They're also a very streaky team. When they get going, you cannot stop them. So I really think that these two styles of play are going to really provide for a great game. I think Texas Tech takes it, though. That's my pick. I'm going to take Texas Tech over Michigan State.
I do not have Texas Tech over Michigan State. I've got the Spartans led by Cassius Winston. I don't think that Texas Tech defense is going to be able to stop him when it comes down to the wire, as he ran all the way to the Final Four in that Duke game as he sprinted his butt down the court, avoiding any last-second foul. But, yeah, I've got Michigan State. Now the final, Michigan State versus Virginia, if that happens, or Michigan State versus Texas Tech. Who do you think is going to win that?
So in your game, you got Michigan State, Virginia.
I worded that right.
I'm going to go Virginia in that one. But if it's Texas Tech and Virginia, I'm actually going to take Texas Tech.
Wow.
I'm riding the Texas Tech Red Raiders bandwagon here. I really think that remember, I've said this 3 times now. March Madness is about momentum. I think Texas Tech is carrying a little bit more momentum, and I think that they have a chance to really make it big against some of these bigger teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, so next week's podcast, episode 11, we will not be talking about the championship because it would have happened later on that night, right after we put this podcast out. So we had to cover that one there. So whoever it is, Auburn, Virginia, Texas Tech, or Michigan State, I've got Michigan State. What did I say, Virginia or Auburn?
You said Virginia.
I said Virginia, yeah. I don't even know. That's how close I think it's going to be. Michigan State versus Virginia. I've got Michigan State. I had them in my bracket going to the championship, losing to Carolina. Obviously, Carolina's not in. So we'll see there. I'm not too much of a college basketball expert. Neither are you, Dolphin Dan. That's all Coleman's game. So we're just doing our best here. Episode 10, no Coleman. But something that you know more than any of us, probably more than anyone in Charlotte, the MLB. We're going to preview that. It's the perfect time to preview that. Coleman knows MLB. I know a little bit. Dolphin Dan, this is your thing. But before we get into what to expect in the MLB, let's talk about what you do, and that's autographing. You are the #1 grapher in the Queen City. Obviously, you go to tons of Hornets games. You cover football. But your main thing is the Charlotte Knights, minor league baseball. Talk to me about what a day in the life of a grapher looks like and how you approach everything that goes into it.
Well, right, man. On a normal day here in Charlotte, I'll usually show up at the ballpark pretty early, probably about an hour before the gates open, just so I can get there and be, one of the first couple people in line. Gates open, I'll walk down to the visitors' dugout and just chill out and enjoy a good time waiting for players to walk by. As players walk by, just basically pick them off and say, hey, would you mind signing? And usually they'll start signing a couple for me. And it's just about knowing where to go, and it's about just being polite with players. A lot of people aren't polite with players. I'm not one to necessarily chase Ubers or anything like that here in Charlotte, but I'm really an advocate of treating the players just like any other guy. And they're in reality, they're ball players, but they're just humans. So treat him with respect, treat him well, and I don't mind getting autographs. I get quite a bit, so I mean it's a long haul. It's probably a good 5-6 hours of graphing for a night, and I do that 20 times, 30 times throughout the summer. So it's a lot of work, but it pays off in the end. I think about 550 Knights autographs this past year. So total about 800 autographs on the year last year alone for all sports, all different athletes. So I get a lot, and I'm very blessed to have the talent, so to say, to go out and get some autographs and have fun doing it.
Absolutely. So you said that number 800 or so last year. Are you going to break that number, beat that number this year?
I don't know if I'm going to beat it this year, considering I've got a lot more on my plate this year than I have had last year. I didn't have a job. I wasn't doing a lot of school, and I wasn't on working or anything like that. So, but this year I'm working for the Kannapolis Intimidators. I've got a couple other jobs. I'm still doing podcasts. I'm doing blogs. And, I've still got school to finish. I've got a couple classes over the summer to finish up before I move on to college. So I'm probably not going to break the 800 number this year, but I'm going to do my best to get as many as I can and get some quality guys this year.
Yeah, and that's kind of been your motto this year, quality over quantity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely where my mind is at this year, going for the bigger name guys and getting them.
Sure.
I've had opportunities to get Dwayne Wade on an 8x10 this year. That was amazing. I'm going to have the opportunity this year to get some football guys. I'm looking forward to graphing hopefully the Saints earlier next year.
Wow.
So there's a couple of teams I'm looking at, and I'm really honing in on and hoping to knock some big names out this year.
Mark D. Gott has been a proud sponsor of local high school athletics for many years. Call Mark D. Gott, attorney at law, for all your legal needs. If Mark D. Gott does not handle your particular need, he will gladly refer you to someone who does. Call Mark D. Gott, attorney at law, at 704-377-5050. That is 704-377-5050.
Talking about big names, we're going to jump right into the MLB. That's awesome.
Woo-hoo.
If you have any questions for Dolphin Dan, just hit him up on his social medias, which we'll talk about later on in the show. Hit him up. He'd love to, guide you through that process if you're truly interested. But what he's truly interested in is this coming baseball season, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about. The MLB is here. It just started a couple days ago. We're going to jump right in to who do you think the AL MVP is?
AL MVP is Mike Trout. And this is an easy pick for me because Mike Trout does Mike Trout things. He's the best player in baseball. Signed a record deal in the offseason, $430 million, I believe it was. He signed a really, really expensive, really long-term deal, and there's a reason for that. Mike Trout is the best player in the world. He's not on a team that I think is capable of making it deep in the playoffs. However, I think that Mike Trout is still going to be Mike Trout, and that's how it's going to be.
Now, NL MVP, you've got guys like Nolan Arenado, Ronaldo Acuna Jr., Juan Soto, Bryce Harper. Any names in there that you think is going to be the NL MVP?
I'm going to take Nolan Arenado. I think that Arenado is on a team that is capable of making a run. The Colorado Rockies are a team that I think are in a division that can make a run. The Dodgers lost a couple starters this offseason. So the Rockies have an opportunity to make the most of their opportunity and make it deep in the playoffs. But I think Nolan Arenado is the guy that stands out in the NL, and I think he takes a big step up.
Now pitching, AL Cy Young. You've got former Charlotte Knight Chris Sale in that conversation.
Right.
Trevor Bauer, Blake Snell, your guy Blake Snell.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like in there?
Now, I like Blake Snell, but I'm not going to take him this year. I think Snell comes a little bit down to earth this year. I'm going to go Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer is a guy that he's not even the ace on his team, Cleveland. Corey Kluber is a stud pitcher for Cleveland, but I think this is the year that Trevor Bauer really steps up and makes a name for himself. And you'll hear a little bit more about my thoughts on Cleveland later.
I was about to say Cleveland has the pitchers.
Oh yeah.
Mike Clevenger. They
Corey
are
Kluber
set.
is amazing. Corey Kluber Mike Clevenger, Trevor Bauer, they've got a bullpen too. I mean, it's the pitching is there, and I mean, Francisco Lindor, and then Jose Ramirez is solid as well. So Cleveland is a team that I think is definitely poised for some good stuff this year.
So NL Cy Young, I like either Scherzer or DeGrom. Not sure which one to choose. Is that name in your NL Cy Young?
Neither of those are in my in my picks. If I had to pick one of those two, I'd take Scherzer.
Okay.
But since I'm not taking either of those two, I'm actually going to take a Phillies battery. I'm going to take Aaron Nola.
Oh, okay.
Aaron Nola is a guy that I think is on the right team. Philadelphia made some additions this year: Bryce Harper, Gene Segura, Andrew McCutchen, etc. So I think that the addition of the offense helps the pitching. It takes a little bit off of the pitchers. So I think Aaron Nola is the guy this year to step up for the Phillies and win this NL Cy Young.
He had a great year last year, too. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. He finished third in the Cy Young, I'm pretty sure, behind DeGrom and Scherzer. So I think that he's got the potential to do it. He can do it. It just depends on how the Phillies do, I'd say.
Rookies. AL, starting with the AL. You got Vlad Jr. last year, one of your biggest name autographs from last year. You definitely agree with that. Eloy as well. He's in that conversation. And then Josh James, Houston Astros, also could be that guy. Who's your guy?
Josh James is a sneaky pick. I'm going to take Vlad Jr. Vlad Jr. was a guy that I met here in Charlotte last year. Was super, super nice, really nice guy. Didn't know a lot of English, but I still am able to, language barriers are just that. They're barriers, but you can still break through. But anyways, yeah, I do like Vlad Jr. I think that once he's called up, he is going to be all the hype. I love Eloy. Eloy's a great guy, and I've met him before multiple times. He's going to be an absolute stud, perennial all-star, but I think the Rookie of the Year is really more of a popularity contest to me. So I'm going to go Vlad Jr. because he's going to have the most hype. There's no question he's been the most hype prospect ever in the history of baseball. So I'm going to take Vlad Jr. there.
Sure. NL Rookie of the Year. You've got another national that's in that conversation, Victor Robles. Mm-hmm. You've got Pete Alonso, Nick Senzel. Where are you going with this one?
Now, there's a lot of NL rookies. A lot of people are taking San Diego's Fernando Tatis Jr. Yeah. Tatis is really good. I think he'll be good, but I'm going to take Nick Senzel because Nick Senzel is on a team that needs him bad. And Senzel was really, really mad that he did not make the team. I read some reports out of Cincinnati saying that he was mad that he did not make the team out of spring training. So I think that once he gets up, he's going to prove the haters wrong. He's going to prove the Cincinnati front office wrong, I should say. So,
does that mean he's on the AAA?
He's on the AAA Louisville Bats.
So you'll see him a few times?
Mm-hmm. I should see him in about 2 months.
Okay.
So, if Senzel gets called up and he makes an impact, I think he's the guy. I think he's the Rookie of the Year.
Playoff predictions.
All right.
We're going to start with the AL East.
AL East, I've got the Boston Red Sox winning it.
And that's a little bit of a controversial pick, as I know there's going to be a lot of Yankees out there like, no, the Yankees, but you've got the Red Sox. Tell me why.
I've got the Red Sox because they have a deeper pitching system than New York. New York's got a lot of good pitchers, Luis Severino, CC Sabathia, and James Paxton. But I think Boston's farm and their bullpen are just that's what makes a difference. They've running off of JD Martinez, Mookie Betts, etc. So they've got a lot of really good players, and there's really no huge weakness on Boston. So I think I'm going to take the Red Sox to win the division there.
All right, now AL Central.
Central, I'm going to take the only team that really makes means anything in that division. Honestly, is the Cleveland Indians. Minnesota is almost there, but I'm going to take Cleveland because there's Kansas City, Chicago, Detroit. I mean, there's nothing there, so I'm going to take Cleveland in that one.
AL West, this seems like an easy choice. Are you going with the easy choice, Houston Astros?
I'm going to go with the easy choice, Houston. Kind of similar to the West, Oakland is almost there, but I think that Houston is the most well-rounded team in baseball right now. There is not a weakness on that team. Their bullpen is amazing. The system in the pitching is amazing. I'm loving the lineup. I'm really liking Jose Altuve. I think he's an MVP candidate this year. So I'm going to definitely take the Houston Astros out of the division.
So NL East. Now we're jumping to the NL. Some people say the Phillies. A lot more people are saying the Nationals. Bryce Harper from the Nationals to the Phillies. What are you thinking there?
Now, this is an interesting pick. A lot of people are taking the Phillies, but I'm actually going to be the rebel here, and I'm going to take the Nationals. I think that the Nationals are a team that they really didn't lose a ton losing Harper. I mean, yeah, Harper is a top 5 player in the world. Exactly, but I don't think they lost too much. They have Juan Soto, who is absolutely amazing. Robles. They've got a lot of different guys that can contribute well. And I think it's almost a chemistry issue. Bryce Harper leaving almost helps that clubhouse.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that the Nationals are a team that can kind of sit back and say, okay, let's play some ball and let's get it done. And I think they make it out of the NL East.
What you said about Bryce Harper leaving kind of makes them better in a way is that it's not the Washington Harpers.
Right.
It's the Washington Nationals now.
Yeah.
Do you think that ego is going to go to Philadelphia?
That's a tough question, honestly, because Philadelphia is so stacked.
Right.
They've got a lot of different guys that can contribute in Philadelphia. So while I think Harper is the superstar in Philadelphia, I don't think he takes that ego with him because he's around such a much better team and Rhys Hoskins, Andrew McCutchen, etc. So I think that Philadelphia is for sure a wild card team. But I don't think that they'll beat the Nationals just as far as chemistry goes and everything like that. So
the toss-up, the toughest division in baseball, NL Central.
Right.
You've got Chicago Cubs, you've got the Cardinals, you've got the Brewers. I mean, those 3 teams, any of them could win it. Who do you have winning it and why?
I have the Chicago Cubs taking it out of the Central. I think that the Cardinals made a really good addition in Paul Goldschmidt.
Yep.
Goldschmidt's a really solid first baseman. He's really good at what he does. The Brewers had an amazing year last year, but I think they take more of a realistic step back to earth. I think the Cubs were a team that was almost there last year. They had another chance to kind of make another run, but injuries in the end hampered them. I know Chris Bryant was out for at least half the year last year with injuries and such. So I think healthy Chris Bryant, healthy Anthony Rizzo, among many other helpful players on the Cubs, I think the Cubs win the NL Central.
NL West. Seems like an easy one to me. Is it going to be the Dodgers?
No, it's not going to be the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are an interesting team because they lost 5 of their 9 starters in the offseason. So they lost a lot of starters. I'm going to take the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies are a young team.
And I agree with you. That's the only team that could really, I guess, challenge the Dodgers.
Right.
Because forget San Francisco and Diamondbacks.
San Francisco is rebuilding. Arizona was there, but they've lost too many players. And San Diego is still a couple years away. Still a very young team, and they just signed Manny Machado. So I'm going to go with the Colorado Rockies. They're well-rounded, and their pitching is much, much improved from previous years. So I'm going to take Colorado.
Talking about AL champion now. You've mentioned the Indians, their stellar pitching. Of course, the all-around Astros. And then you said the Red Sox coming out of the division with the Yankees. Who do you have as the AL champion and why?
AL champion, I'm going to go Cleveland Indians.
Okay.
I think that it's solely based on pitching. Corey Kluber is amazing at what he does. Trevor Bauer, Mike Clevenger, among many others. They've got some prospects to call up. Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, etc. They're a really good team, and I think that Cleveland is gonna basically ride the wave. They're gonna build momentum, and they're gonna make it out of the AL.
NL. You like the Nationals without Bryce Harper?
I'm not gonna take the Nationals out of the NL. I'm actually gonna go Colorado. I think that Colorado behind Nolan Arenado. Arenado is the best third baseman in the league. In my opinion, it's not close. Chris Bryant's good, but he's not healthy enough. So I'm going to take Cleveland and Colorado. Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, DJ LeMahieu is gone now, but they do have Brendan Rodgers, a really, really young prospect in their system that they're going to call up probably this year. So I think that with the call-up of Brendan Rodgers and some of the pitching like Kyle Freeland and Jeff Hoffman, I think that helps Colorado's chances, and I've got Colorado making it in the World Series.
So who do you got winning? Do you have Colorado?
I have Cleveland winning it.
Okay.
I think that if Cleveland and Colorado play each other in the World Series, I think it comes down to pitching. And of the two, Cleveland has a better pitching system than Colorado.
Yeah.
It's always been difficult to pitch in Colorado because of the less dense air. They're a mile-high city, so the air is thinner up there in Colorado, and the ball flies a whole lot easier. So it's always difficult to pitch in Colorado. So therefore, I think the better pitching is in Cleveland. So I'm going to take Cleveland in that.
So you're going to take Cleveland as the 2019 World Series champions. Now we're going to kind of bring it back a little bit and talk about teams that you think everyone is saying they're going to have a great year, but you don't think so. You're going to think they're kind of be disappointing, sort of make their fans upset. Not really, you could say, overrated coming into the season.
Right. My first team in this category is the Yankees. I really think the Yankees are a team that they're almost trying too hard. They're signing a lot of guys like Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, etc. And Judge is a monster. I'm not saying that any of these guys are bad. None of these guys are bad. They're all better than me.
You're just putting them all on the MLB All-Star standard.
Right. I'm comparing it to basically average. Aaron Judge is amazing. Giancarlo Stanton's amazing. But I think the Yankees are going to disappoint some fans this year. I think that they run into some issues with their bullpen is solid, but they need to stay healthy. Their starters are all right, but they don't really have a solid 4 or 5. So I think that the Yankees will make the wild card, but my other wild card team is Tampa, and I think in one game, I think Tampa takes it because Blake Snell, Cy Young winner last year, is probably the best lefty in the AL. So I think that
they've got Kiermaier.
Kiermaier's really good. Ji-Man Choi, the power hitting first baseman, and Joey Wendell, actually kind of a scrappy journeyman second baseman for Tampa. So I really think that Tampa, if they play New York in a one-game wild card, takes New York down.
More like the dark horse.
Yes.
Tampa.
Tampa's a dark horse, and I think that New York is gonna kind of disappoint some fans this year. As far as other teams in the AL that disappoint, I don't really know if there are any other teams that would disappoint, so to say, because there's just a huge drop-off as far as good teams to bad teams. I think Tampa's kind of in that middle range as 90 wins, and then after that it just falls off. You're stuck with teams like Detroit and Kansas City and Texas and Baltimore and Toronto. So, I mean, and those teams are still a couple of years off from even competing for anything. So I'm going to think that New York is really the only team in that AL that fits in that category.
All right, NL.
I have the Phillies making the wild card.
Yep.
I think that they're going to make the wild card. As far as disappointing teams, the Dodgers are going to definitely, I think, disappoint. I mean, I've said it multiple times. They've lost 5 of their 9 starters. Clayton Kershaw cannot stay healthy.
No, he cannot.
He just cannot. I like Walker Buehler. I think that he's a solid righty that they drafted in 2015. That I think he's probably going to be their future ace, but I don't think that the Dodgers do too well. I like the Brewers, but they don't. I think they come more back to earth. I think they're more of around an 80-win team, maybe a wild card team. I don't think the Cardinals are there yet. They signed Paul Goldschmidt. They're trying to improve. They've got some young guys like Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader, but I don't think they're there quite yet. And probably the last team I put in that category is the Mets. The Mets have made a lot of signings recently. Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz acquired in a trade, but they lost Jared Kelenic, who was the 6th overall pick last year. So they've given up almost too much for an aging 36-year-old second baseman and a closer. So I don't think the Mets are there quite yet. They have really good pitching. Jacob deGrom obviously deserved the Cy Young last year. That's not even close. Noah Syndergaard cannot stay healthy. I mean, he's probably the worst as far as injury prone in the league. So Noah Syndergaard can't stay healthy, and I think that the Mets are ultimately going to be a disappointment this year. So there's a lot of teams in the NL that I would put more in that category of kind of disappointments. But I mean, the MLB is kind of a run and gun type league. It's push now or push later.
Right.
And there's 2 categories there. There's no okay, we might make it or we might not. It's one or the other. So I think that some teams are just not going to be able to make it quite yet.
Well, thank you for that. I would say we definitely preview what the MLB season is going to look like, mainly through the eyes of Dolphin Dan. Dan, what do you say? Anything else that you want to say about the MLB? Anything else you want the listeners to know coming up about this season?
I mean, I'm very excited that, personally, from a personal standpoint, I'm working in baseball for the first time,
Right.
So this year is going to be fun for me as far as working in baseball, and it's going to be a new experience. So I'm very excited. I would advise if you want help with autographing or anything like that, hit me up on socials. It's my DMs are open. I'm happy to.
And tell us what your socials are for the viewers.
So I actually have 2 Instagrams. I have my personal page, which is at DolphinDan116. That's kind of my personal one. I don't really talk about sports too much. I'll still say, go team, etc. on my main page, but and then I have my graphs page, which is my autographs page, my sports cards, etc. And that is at DolphinDanGraphs. I am still don't have a ton of followers. I'm still trying to get a little bit more exposure.
You just join.
I'm getting there, yeah. So I'm getting there, and if you ever need help with anything autograph or anything like that, hit me up. I'd be happy to help. And then so I mean. I'm always open. I always love talking about sports, and happy to be on here and been invited to talk sports, which is what I love.
Absolutely. So, guys, make sure you go give Dolphin Dan a follow. He plugged his Instagram, so make sure you follow both, especially hit him up if you want to learn more about the autograph game, or even if you just have a sports-related baseball question or anything along those lines. He'd love to reach back out.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, it's been a pleasure having you on. The first co-host that's not Coleman or I on the podcast, episode 10. How does it feel?
Dude, feels good. I feel honored. I should buy a patch or something like that and throw it on my jacket.
Yeah. Dolphin Dan is also going to be starting a podcast soon. He's not sure what it is
Still
yet.
trying to figure out what I'm gonna do there. If you have ideas, hit me up.
Hit him up on his socials.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got ideas and still trying to figure it out. So.
absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. Guys, thanks for listening. If you're still with us, I really appreciate it. Hopefully Coleman will be better to come back on with me next week. And have a great day or night, depends on when you're listening to this. God bless. Peace.